Hello and welcome to video 9 of 10 in my Python 3 crash course. Today we're going to learn about file handling. So every variable we create has disappeared when the program ends. Today we're going to learn how to make sure those variables are stored. We're going to store them in text files and some other type of files too. So let's get started. So in order to work with files, they need to be in the same folder as our coding file, our Python file. So if you haven't already done so, your code should be saved in its own folder. So if you haven't done it already, go ahead and create a folder and put your Python file in it. And once you've done that, open your folder in VS Code like so. You're going to click open folder, find the folder you created. I'm just going to find it real quick. I called mine file handling, and as you can see, it opens the folder along with whatever you have inside, which should just be your Python file only. And then you're gonna go ahead and click on this icon next to file handling, and then you're gonna call it come up with any name. So I'm gonna call mine handling.txt. Remember to put .txt after your file because that's the file type we are going to work with. Okay, so before we can work with a file, we first have to open it because it's just like a book. How can you read the book without opening it? So to start working with a file, we need to open it. So I'll write the line that opens the file. And done, our file is open. If we run our code, notice nothing happens, because all we did was open the file. We didn't do anything with it yet. So here, open is a function that opens the file for us to work with. And as a parameter, we add the name of the file we want to open. Simple enough. And then finally, we put our results inside a file, or whatever we want to call it. We could change this name anytime. So now, how do we read the file? Well, let me show you. Reading the file alone isn't going to output any results. You have to print your results if you want to see them. So let's print file.read. And then let's do that. And as you can see, it does nothing because we have nothing in our file yet. So if you put something in your file, like hi, my name is code like a pro, then once you run your code again, you will see the text that is inside of the file pop up in the terminal because you just read it and printed it. And now finally, there's one more line we want to add. So I'll use the book analogy from earlier. We needed to open the book to read it, right? But now, once we put it away, what do we need to do? We need to close the book, right? So in order to do that, we just use the close function, and we're done. That closes the file. So closing files is usually a good habit because it can cause problems later on. So keep this in mind when you're working with a file. Whenever you're done working with it, always be sure to close it. Okay, reading a file is useful and all, but how can we add new stuff to it? Well, we have to open the file in a unique way. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete all of this and leave the last line, or the first line I should say, which is where we open our file. And we need a second parameter. This is W. So what does the W mean? Well, W means we are opening it in write mode. So we have to use write mode in order to write new stuff inside of our file. Earlier, we were opening our file in read mode, which looks like this. But why didn't we put it earlier? Well, whenever we don't add the second parameter, Python just opens the file in read mode by default. But if you want to put an R there too, to make it easier for people to understand, then you can always do that too. So when we are in write mode though, it's required to add the W. And now, let's go ahead and write something. So this is similar to reading, except when we try to print our result, it won't give us anything, so there's no point in doing so. So we're just going to use the write function and then write something. So I'll just say hello world. And then remember the habit, you always got to close your file once you're done working with it. And voila, we've written something in our file. We've written hello world. So let's go ahead and run our code. And it looks like nothing happened in the terminal, but if you go to our second file, it says hello world. But where did the other text go? Well, when you open stuff in write mode, Python assumes you just want to replace everything inside the original file with something completely new, which can be useful sometimes, but can also make things dangerous and could make you lose a lot of valuable information that you might put in your files. So the next thing we're going to learn how to do is to add it to our file without deleting anything. Okay, so instead of opening our file in write mode, we're going to open it in append mode. So append just means to add. So what this is going to do is, instead of overwriting everything just like write mode did, it's just going to add stuff to our original file. So we're going to go ahead and try writing again, but this time in our new mode, as we've specified up here. Instead of W, we use A. And then inside the parameter, just write whatever you want to add. And remember, when you're adding stuff to a file, if you want to use a new line, then always use the new line character, which we learned about in the last video. So if you need a refresher on that, I recommend you go check it out. And now I'll say my name is Code Like a Pro. And now we're going to go ahead and close the file. And once I run my code, nothing happens in the terminal. But if we go to the file, it added a new line. My name is Code Like a Pro. And we can do this as many times as we want, and it will keep on adding new lines. Okay, so now I'm going to show you how you can open files in a cleaner and much safer way. So before, we had to manually open and close the file by ourselves, and this could cause problems in case our file crashes in some way before it closes. So how do we prevent that? Well, we can use the with keyword. So I'll show you how to do so. Open, and then your file name, handling.txt for me, and I'll keep it in read mode so I don't need to add a second parameter. Okay, so this code does exactly the same thing as our previous read code. So essentially what this does is it's structured the same way as a function definition or an if statement or a loop. It uses a colon and it opens a file right here, and this file is like our variable name from earlier that we gave, and this is where all the work happens. So just like in an if statement or a loop, everything that's indented is part of the work in the file, but once you hop out of the indentation, then this is no longer part of the work in the file. So if you want to work in the file, make sure you're always indented. So let's go ahead and run this. As you can see, it works just like before. So from this point on, I'm going to be using with instead of manually opening and closing, because it's good practice and that's what a lot of professionals do, and you should get used to doing that as well. So you can obviously try this in write in append mode. Change the mode, and then you can write. Have to get rid of this print statement. Write, and then I'll say hello. Nothing happens. Go to the file and it replaces the entire thing with hello. And you could open it in append mode and it will add another hello to it. You keep going, it'll add more hellos. And if you want to do it in a new line, just do that, and like so. So yeah, that's how you open a file using the with keyword. Since files can be a bit confusing, I'll show you how you can create your own notes app. So, a notes program. So, we'll start with our note. And then, before we do that, I'll get rid of this so we have a blank slate. Okay, so I'll create a note variable. And I'm going to use the input function. I'm not sure if I explained this earlier in the course, so I'll explain it again if I already did. But the input function basically asks the user to input something in the terminal. So I'll show you what I mean once I do this. So go ahead and say write a note. So I run my code. As you can see, it asks me to write a note, and I can write something like learn Python, and I hit enter, and that will be the value of note. So whatever we enter, that will be the value of the variable note. So now that we have the user input, we want to add it to our text file. So in order to add it, we need to first open it. So we'll use with, and then open, then our file name, and we want to open it in append mode so that the user doesn't lose their notes. As file, and you don't always have to say as file, you could do whatever, and you would say file dot write and then the note. But if the user adds multiple notes, we want to add new lines. So I'm gonna add a new line character. So even though it looks like it won't do anything, you'd have to wait until the user runs it again and then inputs another thing, and then you'll see that it will create a new line, and our file closes automatically, so we can go ahead and test it out. Or actually, before we do that, after we close our file, which is automatically done, we can print your note has been saved to let the user know that their note has been saved. So if we run our code, write a note, I'll say hello, and my note has been saved. And once I go look at it, it's been added. And then I could do it again and say learn Python, enter, and it does it again, and your note has been saved. So I want you to do this, but have a while loop so that it keeps asking for the user to write a note, and then the only way it will stop is if the user writes stop. So go ahead and try that, and really think about it before you search up the answer. So yeah, that's all I have. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, as I would really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the final video of our Python crash course.